So the meeting is called to order. In terms of alternates, we are, let's see. Walter Tabor's not here. And Tom Currier's not here. Tom? And anyone else online? No. So we have one member to seat, and it'll be Jason. He'll be seated for this meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
John, any changes or additions to the agenda?
None for me.
Okay. The minutes of September 22nd, 2025. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I have to abstain. I abstained. I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So we have 1, 2,
Not seated.
not seated. Do we have a quorum to approve minutes? Tom's, that's,
Yeah.
and, oh, Dave, okay. So that's 4 in favor and 3 abstentions. The motion passes. We have a public hearing tonight to reopen for the application, special permit application. John Wasowski on Joseph Pratt of Target Enterprises for a laydown area at 0 Route 6, 223 Route 6, 2 properties, map 6, lot 25 and 27 in the CM1 zone. The lot areas are 10 acres and 14 acres respectively. This is a public hearing that was opened on September 9th, 2025. Just to note, so that we have it in the record, we must close this meeting this evening and have to take action on this by December 18th, 2025. I just wanted that so the public understands what the time frame is for having the public hearing open to a certain point and then when our required action is on that. So the process here, first thing I would ask, John, do you have anything to speak to on this?
I would just, yes, a little bit. I would just note, so in your packets, there was a sketch of some potential plantings. And I can put that on the screen if you need. It was sort of an attempt, upon talking with Mr. Wasowski, some potential vegetated buffering that could happen. And so I prepared the sketch. The way I drew it on the sketch that's there shows a line of proposed. It's with blue pen, 6-foot minimum arborvitae, sort of along the southerly portion of the curving driveway, leading from the Oswald property to the Target property, as a visual buffer. I had. And again, this was sort of as an example to suggest to the applicants. They had initially thought that the approach was fine. The math on the number of plants, if you're going to space them 3 to 4 feet apart, would be, upwards of 70 or 80 plants along that way, which seemed excessive in number and cost to the applicants. And we had talked about some other alternatives. They were willing to provide a smaller number of targeted plantings, which I think is worth consideration. But I just wanted to point out that this representation that you see in your packet is not the formal proposal from the applicant. It is a point of discussion.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up and have the applicants address anything that they would like to address with us. Then after that, I'll address any questions from the commission for the time being. As part of the public hearing, then we'll open up the public comment and discussion and questions. Anything that the applicant would like?
Like I said, I was in contact with John. He suggested this. I didn't scale. I counted the number of trees. There's 20 here. I sent John an email back stating that, that would be acceptable to us. I spoke with Jeff. He said that was acceptable. John got back to me and said, well, this is a misrepresentation because scaled out, it was, I don't know, 40 or 50 plantings, which I said was cost prohibitive. And to maintain those is, It's a real problem to keep them watered, you know, we'd be doing that full time, 50 plants. I said, you know, we would entertain a smaller section. If we did it like we were 20 or 30 plants on the corner or the edge, which is perpendicular to Rose's Bridge Road, that would basically screen our laydown area. And again, John said, you know, let's keep that open for discussion.
So what you're referencing, putting plantings along Rose's Bridge Road? not
No,
the
no, no, no,
driveway?
along the driveway,
Mhm.
but perpendicular to Rose's Bridge Road. Here's the driveway. This is Rose's Bridge Road right here.
Mhm.
If we put plantings on the outside of this corner here, this would be our laydown area over here. Perpendicular from Rose's Bridge Road, it would screen that area. Like I said, we'd be acceptable 20 or 30 plants, but not 50 or 60 or 70, you know.
It's as loud as I can get it.
Okay, I'm not understanding the perpendicular to Rose's Bridge and that being a screening process.
Well, you're running along where your laydown area would be.
That's correct.
So you're blocking the.
Rose's Bridge Road is right here like this, if you see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like I said, we put it right here and here, as you were going down Rose's Bridge Road.
Yes, it blocks the
It would be-
view of what they're doing on that
Right.
particular piece.
I can't really see what you're doing on your paper. Can I see what you're doing there?
For me to show this for? Yeah, I think so. But maybe it's better if we have John
This is the other.
put it up on the screen if he has it. Sure he does.
Sure. So, okay, let me know if you can see this.
The red.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you.
So John, so you mean perpendicular? So it's,
No,
Like-
this is Rose's Bridge Road right here. If you go
here's
along like
Rose's
this.
Bridge Road on the left side.
So our laydown area would be over here. If we put plantings along this curve from Rose's Bridge Road, it would screen that area.
Isn't that what John had proposed?
Except he proposed 70 plants or
Right.
whatever.
So I'm gonna scroll up to mine. It would be this, it would be basically this section right here from the beginning of the laydown area to about, I don't know, is this the 102 topography line? Like this section right in here?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Like essentially between the 104 and 102 contours? And I can zoom in. This area right in here?
Yeah, and again, John, I can't scale here. I don't know. You know, it's divided by the amount of trees. I don't know how many that would entail.
21 trees.
No.
And the other thought was potentially if you wanted to screen a couple of trees on this side and a couple of trees extending northerly from the other side of the driveway, just to screen some of the laydown area. So possibly like wings coming out from the driveway.
Yeah, well, the specific number is less important than that it's adequate, so which is generally what the regulations state. So if less will have an adequate, great and adequate buffer, I can see where that would be feasible. Especially if we're taking into consideration the use of what the applicant is trying to do.
Excuse me, John, were you talking about between contours 104 and 102?
That's what I had initially suggested based on Mr.
That's about
Osowski's
150 feet. About
description.
150 feet of plantings, we could be about 38 plants at 4 feet on center.
But the large.
That can be, I haven't done that. Yeah.
Well, it says 3 to 4 feet on the plan, so.
That's, but my,
What height or variety are you talking about?
This
6 foot. 6 foot and it's 4 feet on center. Would recommend it.
that's a 30-year process. The recommended spacing for green giant, 5 foot, 8 foot spacing for natural screen is, I'm sorry. The recommended space for green giant is 5 to 8 feet spacing for natural screening. Planting too close can cause interior browning and health issues, so it's crucial to allow enough room for growth.
You wanna go 30 years.
Could we only have one person speaking at a time, please? And not until you recognize, please.
Drawing that is shown by John initially is about 300 linear feet.
Yes.
So you divide that by 4, that's 75 plants. If it's 4 feet on center.
Right, which I
John
said is unacceptable.
That's what John said. So
I made the mistake of counting,
no, he's just showing the.
no, I understand, now I understand, like I said, but
Just like your stones, is that the accurate number of stones?
they are an accurate number.
Oh, it is?
They're scale, yeah.
Interesting. So the initial plan that's up on the board there is about 300 linear feet, and it's about 75 plants. They're 4 feet on center, which is what John is saying. But I think what we're all exhibiting here is a lack of knowledge about how closely they have to be spaced and how tall they're gonna be. And as I suggested at the last meeting, a landscape architect or some professional should be here to tell us exactly what is gonna be planted, the height of the species, the height of the species and spacing. So that we can have, I mean, if you put 20-foot trees in there, the spacing is gonna be 15 feet.
I disagree, because we need. The standard is an adequate buffer. So if we get caught in the minutia of what tree and what height and what. That can be up to John and Savannah to work through with the applicant to make sure that it's an adequate buffer. As long as it's screening their particular use of that lot. We don't have to get into that minutia.
I think we're well advised to get into a very specific recommendation so that we're not of any, that we don't have any misunderstanding about what we expect and what we want to accomplish. Getting into it is probably the most effective way to make sure there's no misunderstanding.
But I think there's a couple ways that we could get into it. It depends what the goal is. If the goal is an adequate buffer, then we could work towards an adequate buffer without getting into the minutia of how many trees and what trees. You just know the area that needs to be screened. So I guess that would be a question, John and Savannah, if you want to address. I mean, if we were to say there needs to be an adequate buffer between two areas or blocking a specific area. Can you, as the town planner and the zoning enforcement officer, manage what that would look like after an approval of with that condition?
What if it's not approved by
Hold
the?
on, I just want to see what John says.
I mean, I would, if you asked us to do that, I think both Savannah and I would probably look to guidance from a landscape architect or a horticultural expert.
And
Just
what
about
if their suggestion is not acceptable to the applicant after we've approved the application?
I think, well, if you left it, if the condition was, a buffer that was deemed to be suitable by the town planner and zoning officer, that is vesting us with the authority. If they didn't find it sufficient, they would not get their permit.
Yeah, just like if they didn't find our recommendation sufficient, it'd be different.
Okay. I'd like to, anything else from the applicant at this point?
Well, if I could speak, I'm Attorney Maria Burrell. I represent Mr. Dames, but I've been authorized to speak on part of Target. Another proposal was possibly doing a boundary line agreement where my client would transfer that lake area to 223 Route 6. And that way it would take it out of being adjacent to residential. And then they would still put up the buffer around the lay area. And something that we think could be done relatively quick.
That would result in no buffer provided whatsoever.
Well, buffer around, so my client was proposing to put up as many trees and in the 12, I think it was proposed 12 trees along the residences, you know, with more, it's more. He's just saying he doesn't want to have to put however many, 100 and something trees along Rosebridge at this point, because there's no use for his vacant lot right at the moment, so he doesn't want to have to spend $70,000-$80,000, and maybe a year from now, he finds a tenant who's, whatever their use is, he has to rip up or rip out all those trees. And it is $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 put in all those trees. So,
I was gonna speak on that, target. I'm still willing,
Your name,
I'm Jeff James, that's why I own the land. And I am still willing to do a little bit of a buffer there, it's just, again, it has to be reasonable. If we were to agree on 20 trees, you can put them wherever you wanted them, guys. You know, I'd be willing to do that, I'd still do the lot line revision, provide some buffer. And, you know, and then target does their thing. My discussion on zero is a different discussion, which I provide a buffer for the user. That's construction. That's what I would propose to them.
okay, are you all set, the applicants, for the time being?
We're in agreement,
We can-
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Okay, so I just wanted to know if it's ready to open it up to the
No,
public.
before that, I'm still not sure. There've been like 3 or 4 proposals here. Which one are we talking about? You've talked about changing property lines, he's talking about 150 feet of plants, John's talking about 300 feet of plants. I mean, what is the applicant presenting tonight for us to think about? You want to go ahead?
a lot line revision and 150 feet of plans.
If a lot line revision, then I think it's going to take an application, isn't it? The new application.
I'm not necessarily, I don't agree with that.
The lots don't change, just the line changes, just the boundary line.
Yeah.
It's just,
No, I
it's a lot.
understand. But
You're trying to circumvent this.
there at least has to be a new survey, there at least has to be a new survey. correct?
What has, to I guess, okay, if that was the way that we're gonna go, can we just determine what has to be done? If they were going to go that route. So that everybody knows, so we're not guessing.
So, I don't know that it's up.
Go ahead.
you have your surveyor.
Yeah, the property's been surveyed already.
The property line has to be changed on the survey.
That's
That
correct.
has to be shown in an accurate drawing,
And recorded, that's correct.
right? So that has to be done.
Right.
So once that's
That could
done,
be done as a revision, correct?
It's an administrative action, there's no approval process.
Right.
for that.
right, so if that's done, then there should not be a need for a buffer at that point, for our part.
Correct.
So if we do that, then there's no buffer. You know, Jeff is in the Lazoit is a different story.
So can it be approved with a condition of a lot line revision?
I believe so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be inclined to consider it unless I knew exactly what that lot line revision was, it's my own individual perspective.
It would encompass the entire laydown area, that's across the property line.
That's what it
The entire, whatever it is, it would be straight lines around the entire laydown area.
So could that be included in verbiage of the will condition?
Yeah, but you know, there's one thing that we're not considering here, and I just want to throw it out so that it's part of everybody's consideration and discussion. They are still proposing access via the old driveway for a new use on the adjacent site. So that, to me, in every aspect, puts the entire Route 6 property into play. So they're if they weren't proposing any access via Route 6 to a newly constructed building and a new use on that property, then it would be a different conversation. But the driveway access puts Route 6 into discussion from my perspective.
So
No ifs, ands, or buts.
So let's quantify the use of the driveway, so it's an existing driveway.
The driveway that we're using is on Rosebridge Road, we have that's what,
No other
that's what Oswald, that's, I don't know what
I
you're.
understand, that
Also,
driveway is in a residential zone. So there's activity in a residential zone.
No, the driveway is on a commercial zone.
Oh,
Mr. Chair.
The commercial,
driveway
I'm
is
sorry,
commercial.
it's abutting, I misspoke. It's abutting a residential zone. on that commercial
That's been in
property.
existence for 40 years.
The
Am I wrong?
driveway has, but the usage has not been. It's a-
2019.
It's a new proposed, excuse me, who's speaking?
I don't.
Who is that? I'm sorry. I would really appreciate it if you do not speak until you're recognized by the chair, under any circumstances. I insist on that. There's a certain sense of order we have about our meetings, and we will get to everybody's comments in due course. But I can't have anybody speaking out when they wish so. If that happens again, it will be a problem. So the idea that there's a brand new use on that driveway to access the 233 Route 6 via Rosen Bridge Road for a new use, that puts 0 Route 6 into play as a new use on 0 Route 6. That's not an existing use that existed before the construction of the building on the adjacent parcel. So there's no question in my mind that we have the authority to regulate a buffer to the commercial use there, because now we're creating a new use of that property. Even though it was an existing driveway, it's increasing the intensity of the use because it's a new use. So that being said, we have every right to address a buffer in a way that we feel is appropriate for the use of that driveway and the laydown area. And doing a lot line revision will not solve the problem, because that driveway will be the new use.
Is there a regulatory authority that lets us consider the driveway?
No ifs, ands, or buts. It's a brand new use of that driveway to access a new use on the adjacent parcel. So it puts 0 Route 6 into play. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. It's very clear. And so the idea that the applicant has only a limited willingness to address a buffer for what's been a huge impact on the neighborhood. And
Well, hold on though. We're mixing up two applications, because the hold on, Rick. The major impact, the origin, everyone being here is Oswald's application and what he did, not Target. Now, I understand your point of view, I understand it. But we're kind of mixing things up. So Target has a separate application, and we have to look at their use and their impact to an adjacent residential area, absent of what Oswald's done.
I'm not talking about Oswald, I'm talking about now the Target, access to the Target property is over a driveway that is contiguous with a residential area. So that it's the driveway use that triggers our ability to ask for a reasonable buffer. I don't have any doubt about that.
Okay, well, okay. All right, well, for argument's sake, I'll say I agree with you. But they're offering to put a buffer up.
Well, now they're saying maybe no buffer. I'm not really sure what's proposed, and I would only want to consider a very specific plan of proposed buffer. To have a verbal description of a buffer and then approve it with a verbal description, I think is a recipe for disaster. As a matter of fact, I know it's a recipe for disaster from prior experience on where you can't look at a very specific site plan with very specific proposals. The applicant had his hand on. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say that driveway's never been abandoned for use, ever. It's been continuous use for 60+ years. So, yeah, I just don't see how you can suggest that that it's a new use. It's been used. I insisted on the scrap metal guy, you getting access out to Route 6 so that it could continue to be used to lessen the traffic in that direction, so that it all didn't go in that direction. And I had him get access through DOT for that purpose, to lessen the traffic. So that the volume of traffic is no more than it has been forever.
No. I don't have any documentation of that, and this is a brand new use from my perspective. I don't have the same perspective that you do, that it's the same use. This is a brand new retail operation which was called retail for a moment, you know, it's a wholesale supply, with public traffic going in and out on a continuous basis from Rose Bridge Road. Now this is a new use of that old existing driveway that also services the scrap metal, but also services the newly built building. That's a new use from my perspective, no question whatsoever about that. And that triggers the suitability of the need for a buffer of that driveway. And if the laydown area with apps, if the laydown area has a lot line, if there's a lot line redraw to take the laydown area and assign it to the adjacent lot, not to 0 Route 6, then that might reduce the need for, or eliminate the need for a buffer of the laydown area. But still, the use of the driveway to access that property puts all of 0 Route 6 in play from my perspective. Absolutely, positively. If that's the key. If the access to the target enterprise building was solely from Route 6, then we probably have nothing to discuss. And you could do the lot line reallocation and it would be a resolved issue. But as long as you're having a brand new use coming into an area contiguous with a residential area, now that is something that we have every right to review and have reasonable control over the neighborhood.
What's the use of that driveway right now?
Access to Guard's property.
Is it currently being used?
Yes.
Has it been used over the past couple of years? Has it been abandoned?
No, it's never been abandoned. The use of it's never been abandoned.
How much will the use increase?
It probably decreased from what the scrap metal business
Yeah,
was.
it's definitely gonna be less than John scrap metal.
Okay, so I mean, another consideration is the use and the impact. And if the impact's gonna be greater. So. I mean, I don't know, I think. We're getting ourselves in a situation here where. You know, I get that everyone wants the best for everyone, but at a certain point. We really do need to make a decision on this, and I know that we're at the end of the open public hearing, we have to close it tonight.
Actually, we do not.
I thought we did.
Oh.
Okay.
So we're selling.
This public
Oh,
hearing.
public hearing, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, the public hearing, we do.
We have 65 days after we close it to make a decision.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
have to decide it.
No, I'm not saying that to decide tonight, well. We should decide tonight, but we need to do what's balanced for everyone, that best interest of this particular.
We'll get to public comment in a minute. We haven't gotten there yet. Give us a little bit of time.
Right,
Yes.
I would propose that we go back to what we were talking about 15 minutes ago. I'm not concerned about the lot line change and all the thing. I think if we can get the applicant to agree to a reasonable amount of buffering and maybe adding a few trees on the upper side here. I'm ready to
On the
move.
upper side, you mean Route 6?
No, this part right here. Just so that coming down to the Rose Bridge Road,
Buffered both ways.
yeah, it's buffered both ways that way. I'm not talking about a lot of trees, there just a couple. We're trying to encourage business, and I think what the other thing that the audience has to understand is that the main part of this applicant, the other applicant, we're gonna deal with that separately. This is just for Target, which is what Jason, Dustin was just talking about. And, I think if we can get a reasonable buffer out of the applicant, we should move forward.
Yeah.
But it's my perspective that if they wanted to do the lot line redraw, then a buffer's off the table from the applicant.
Well, I'm not asking to do the lot reline, I'm asking for a reasonable buffer.
So I don't know what's proposed at this point, other than what's actually in the application.
I think. Okay, sorry.
Yes,
I think John already previously had agreed with John from the town that we would put 20 trees anywhere you want for that
we
matter.
didn't come to an agreement on that. That was a proposal that was floated and I don't know. that
We've
there's any widespread-
spoken out that we would do that.
Okay, 12 trees.
No, 12 trees is a different issue. That was my previous proposal for zero and Oswald's related special permit application. What,
And I said 20 trees, because I counted, that's what was represented on this drawing that John proposed to me. And like I said, I didn't scale it. And then when I did scale, like I said, I sent John an email stating that was feasible for us. And he sent me back, thanks for responding. I'd just like to clarify that even a 5 to 8 foot separation on Green Giant, I think the distance along the driveway adjacent property is close to 300 feet, which would mean upwards of 40 to 50 plants. Is that still workable? He says, honestly, it's cost prohibitive. We're like upside down in this old
How much do we think these plants cost? 6 foot green giant.
It's like $150 a piece.
Plus planting.
All right. So you said $75,000.
I didn't say that. I never said
Somebody said $75,000. That's not, the math doesn't work.
Just one.
I didn't say $75,000, I'm a new company.
6 foot arborvitae.
Attorney Burrell.
That's how you say it. Is the minimum price is $250 according to, I called a arborist today. And the cheapest at 6 feet was $250, and that's only if you find, volume and can get it for that.
Yeah, I just looked up, Home Depot has them for 100. So. No, 6 foot, 6 foot.
In, right?
yeah, water, you gotta take care of them, et cetera. That's was very good.
Solve.
With all due respect, we're gonna sell pipe, not take care of our providers,
I know.
All right, I'd like to open this up to the public comment and questions, and then we can circle back to this issue, but I'd like to have public comments on the record at this point. Yes, sir.
Bob Henry, 3 Pine Ridge Road. That, where they're going in down there, okay, I really don't wanna say, but that was closed for a long time. Don't tell me it wasn't closed, I've been living there for 40 years. Okay, that was closed for a long time. Used to come in off of 6 to go to John Scrapman. Then they had problems there, so they closed that down, and then they opened that gate up. I can't tell you exactly what year it was or anything, but you can't tell me that you've been open for 60 years.
Sir, you can just direct the comments to the.
Okay, well, you can't tell me it was open for 60 years,
Understood, I hear.
so.
Thank you. Steve, did you have something you wanted to weigh in on?
And I just,
You were the first hand up.
not at this time.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
The Jason St. Louis, 7 Rose Bridge Road, Columbia. We're talking about screens for Route 6 and a little bit down the road. We're not taking screens down the Rosen Bridge to the gate, or are we?
Different application.
Different obligation. Why is that? The entrance is on Rosen Bridge, correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, we're talking about like 60 or 70 trees on the top of Route 6 and coming around the corner of Rose's Bridge.
No, that's the other application. This is just for the property in the back. You're talking about.
So where are you screening? Where were you talking about?
We have 2 separate locations. One with a public hearing that's been closed for 0.
Right, so where,
Route
so
6.
what
You're
screening?
not talking about that right now.
When I talk about screenings?
No, we're not talking about the application for 0 Route 6. We're talking about the application for Target Enterprises for the laydown area that is on 0 Route 6, which is part of an extension of their use of 233 Route 6.
Right, so when we're
So
talking
we're
about
talking about-
trees, where are we talking about them and?
It's been outlined. I don't know how better.
Oh, yeah, I can't read that.
Which part of your.
Is it coming all
It's
the way
along
down
the,
to the gate?
you know, the driveway that goes in Rosen Bridge Road?
Coming all the way down?
It's along the driveway is what's being proposed.
It's this blue line.
It's just inside the road.
So what they're trying to do is from Rosen Bridge, looking that way, you wouldn't see the lay down area. Because it's a block area.
And
So
at
this is a
point-
perfect example of beg for forgiveness, ask for permission. Cause this has been a mess since, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Tracy Henry, 3 Pine Ridge Road. This is just adding on to the gate being open. Back in July of '94, the then town planner, Mary, said that Rose's Bridge Road is not designed for commercial vehicles. And it is in fact zoned residential, that all commercial vehicles will use the entrance on Route 6. And that's when the gate was closed, and it was closed for many, many years. And this was in the file for 223 Route 6.
Understood. As I understand it, also, the property, there were some zone boundary revisions. And what they were and what dates they occurred on, I don't know off the top.
2019, it went from that 10-acre parcel being residential to being zoned commercial manufacturing.
Okay. Thank you.
You can go first.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just to confirm, Lauren Jorgensen, 8 Pine Ridge. So what's being proposed for the target lower area is perpendicular trees to block traffic, like traffic coming down Rose Bridge would not view that, but I'm just wondering about the neighbors on that end. They're still gonna see it if it's perpendicular and not parallel down Rose's Bridge. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% certain what's been proposed at this point.
Okay.
Because we have an indication of some sort of buffering offered as an option by the applicant for our target enterprise being the applicant. And that's all I know. And approximately 20 arborvitaes have been offered up as in somewhat informally with no documentation, but somewhat informally. So that's as best as, if I'm misstating it all, please help me clarify to the public.
Those 20 can go anywhere on the line that John put together a map and provided for this meeting. It's in your packet. So those 20 can go anywhere on that line. Don't care where.
Is that in addition to the 12 that you?
I would consider still doing the 12, yeah.
Okay.
But I think we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna open this up. Yes, we will.
All right. My name is Andrea Lee and I live at 2 River Valley Road in Columbia. Before I begin, I respectfully ask to be allowed to finish my remarks without interruption. I understand the board will have time for a rebuttal once I'm done, but I and every resident here deserve the opportunity to speak fully. At the last meeting, Rick Nassif stated that if the town imposed a fine for a zoning violation, there would be a 0% chance of collecting it. He added that he prefers to work with property owners rather than issue fines. Zoning Enforcement Officer Savannah initiated a cease and desist order against Jeffrey James, but then canceled it after a single undocumented phone call. No inspection, no conditions, no follow-up, no paperwork. That is not enforcement, it is discretionary negotiation, and it sends the message that enforcement is optional for those with connections. If a property owner in Columbia clears wetlands or lays down millings without a permit, could a phone call suffice to avoid any consequence? Is that now the precedent for this town? Savannah and John, did either of you provide guidance to Mr. James on how to resubmit his special permit application? If your answer is no, I have multiple emails proving otherwise. Savannah, I have an email you sent to Mr. James instructing him to state for the record at the next hearing that he intends to correct 2 false statements, that the parcel is in a flood zone and is within 500 feet of another municipality, both of which he originally answered no to. These are not trivial errors, they carry legal consequences under state law. Being in a flood zone, as many municipalities require, may trigger special review under floodplain regulations and environmental protection rules. Proximity to another municipality, such as Coventry, invokes Connecticut General Statutes 83B, which requires written notice to the Regional Council of Governments when zones or uses are proposed within 500 feet of another town's boundary. Allowing silent mid-hearing corrections deprives the public in neighboring towns of their rights and oversight. That is a procedural violation and undermines transparency. On July 14, 2025, Savannah emailed John stating the area is within an NDDB polygon, but since it's not state funded, we don't need to require that review unless we want to / the public asks, correct? This is legally incorrect. The Natural Diversity Database, NDDB, maintained by the Connecticut DEP, identifies areas with known endangered, threatened, or special concern species. A project in an NDDB area must undergo review if there is potential environmental impact, regardless of whether funding is from the state or private sources. It is not discretionary, it is statutory and regulatory safeguard for species and habitat protection. When Coventry asked to review the project, they were told they didn't have to comment. While technically correct in some respects, the dismissive approach ignores regional responsibility and cooperative planning. The town planner, John, co-founder of Pike Planning and Policy Group, whose mission claims to protect environment and sustainability, should have led with intermunicipal respect, not dismissal. It's worth noting that the town planner currently advising Columbia has worked with over 40 other towns across Connecticut. While experience is valuable, such widespread engagement makes it difficult for any resident to feel confident that our community is receiving truly dedicated, unbiased attention. It also raises the concern about potential divided loyalties or institutional shortcuts, especially when the same planner is facilitating application corrections for one party while downplaying the environmental or regulatory concerns of others. In matters involving endangered species, traffic safety, and land disturbance, the public deserves a planner whose first priority is the integrity of our regulations, not the convenience of the applicant. While Columbia's zoning may not explicitly prevent land clearing, state law provides clear constraints. Under Connecticut General Statute 26-311, it is unlawful to willfully take endangered or threatened species or to destroy their habitat. The statute also contains a provision that allows incidental taking from lawful land use, but only under limited conditions and not without review. Additionally, Connecticut General Statute 26-310 requires that state agencies, when performing or authorizing land action, must mitigate adverse impacts to the endangered species and essential habitats, using best scientific data available. These statutes are part of Chapter 495, Endangered Species, Connecticut General Statutes 26-303 through 26-312, and are a state expression of policy to conserve species and habitat. In August of 2023 in Andover, Connecticut, biologist Hank Gruner prepared a formal mitigation plan to protect state-listed species. If anyone wants to see this, I have the document right here. It included the eastern box turtle, wood turtle, the smooth green snake, and an eastern hognose snake, due to development pressures in the same ecological zone along the Hop River corridor. This is direct precedent for what should be required here. Those species are listed by DEP and should be considered in any permit or environmental review in this region. On June 16, 2025, I personally photographed an eastern box turtle crossing the road from this site. The species are not hypothetical, their habitat is being affected. Let's talk about what's known as Suicide 6. It's a dangerous stretch. Trucks coming from Route 66 onto Roses Bridge Road is going to create blind spots and unsafe passing situations, yet the DOT has not been consulted. Jeffrey James owns Oswa LLC and the same entity that would need DOT approval for traffic changes or new driveway access. Why is DOT oversight demanded in some instances but ignored here? This is selective enforcement and places public safety at risk. Mr. James has declined to invest approximately $14,000 in a visual and sound barrier, a measure that would help his tenants and neighbors. Had 6 acres not been cleared without oversight, that barrier might not be necessary, but now the burden falls on neighbors who did nothing wrong. He caused the damage, he must correct it. It's also becoming disturbingly clear that both the town planner and the zoning enforcement officer appear to be lobbying on behalf of the applicant, not the public. Rather than acting as neutral enforcers of zoning and environmental rules, they seem more focused on shielding Mr. James from financial consequences. Whether it's quietly advising him on how to fix a flawed application mid-process or arguing that endangered species review is optional unless the public asks, or encouraging the board to allow remediation without penalty. It all points in one direction, protecting the applicant from having to spend money to fix a mess that he created. That's not their job. Their job is to enforce the law, not to advocate for cost-cutting measures that come at the expense of the environment in this community. The issue reaches far beyond a single parcel. It's about whether zoning is enforced fairly, whether endangered species are protected, not ignored, whether we listen to our neighbors, whether this board will stand for transparency and integrity. You can allow this to pass undocumented, unmitigated, unenforced, or you can do your job. I ask you to require a full NDDB and environmental review, consultation with DEP, a biological assessments and mitigation, a DOT analysis of traffic impacts and road impacts, enforcement, documentation, and accountability. Do not let Columbia become a place where rules exist only for some. Respect the law, respect the public, and protect our environment. Thank you.
Have you submitted that to us via
So-
email or in writing?
So I had submitted the Hank Gruner's assessment that was done in August of 2023 in Andover, right on for Bunker Hill Road, for the bridge. I had submitted it to Savannah along with the map that I handed out here. She told me that John could show it up on the screen for the members to see if they wanted to.
The statement that you just made, is there any way you could supply that to us, a written copy of it?
Yeah, I can send a copy.
Okay.
Just give me an email address.
Any chance you can give us that copy and we'll just put it in our record?
I can do that.
That would be, I appreciate it, because you have a
Oh,
lot of content in
Yeah, I just
there.
have it on
And
my computer.
I think having it in printed form would be very helpful.
I don't know if you want the Hank Gruner. Do you want that?
That, yeah,
It has the copy because it tells you pretty much that it's.
I'd rather have everything that you have.
Yep,
Thank you.
and then this is the two that I provided. and that's an endangered species zone.
The roads are part of it. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the public? With anything that they would? Yes.
Aerial tour, 700 Ridge, and even though Andrea spoke so eloquently, I also have concerns about the traffic on Rose's Bridge Road, because I know that's a very busy road. And, the trucks coming down are gonna be, you know, there's, the people that live there are gonna have trouble getting access to and from the properties. And people using the road to get to Coventry, the same idea, they're gonna have trouble, you know, with the trucks if they back up on Rose's Bridge. And also, like she said, the impact of the traffic turning, like they're going east on Route 6 and turning onto Rose's Bridge. We all know that Route 6 is a very busy road, and those are my concerns too.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything that they'd like to address to us? Yes, sir.
I guess my last statement is, I live directly across.
Your name just for the record.
I'm sorry, Jason St. Louis, 7 Rose. I'm the only house on Rosenberry Road. There's no other houses on Rosenberry Road. I live directly across from the land clearing that happened. I live on a corner, which the town has never taken a look at, but it's an extremely dangerous corner as it is. I had to put mirrors up. Everybody that comes to my driveway, I have to back them out as it is. If anybody, I've asked for years for somebody to take a look at this corner. It's an already impossible corner. With that gate being at the very end of that corner. With any more traffic, I think it's just gonna cause probably deaths. I mean, we've had accidents, we've had people getting hit. It's a bad corner. I would suggest somebody to take a look at the corner.
Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna come back to the commission. Yes, ma'am.
Laura Markner, 6 Pine End Road. I would just like everybody that's gonna vote on this, yay or nay, whatever you're gonna do, put yourselves living where we're living. I know none of you do. And looking at what we're looking between the noise, the unsightliness, the extended traffic now that's gonna happen, like, it has changed everything. It's not pleasant anymore to live there. And it's frustrating that we've had so many meetings and it seems like he's got the upper hand all the time. Nothing is happening to protect us in that neighborhood. I mean, and really just honestly, like especially some of the people here, put yourself living there, leaving every day and looking at that, walking and looking at that. Listening to the noise now, you can't determine whether it's from Route 6, whether it's coming down the hill. So you're walking blindly, trying to cross the road and you don't know if you're gonna get hit from this people going down. It really is just, like, I don't like it anymore.
Thank you.
I've been there since 85 and it's really sad.
Anyone else has something they'd like to address to us? Yes.
Alice Miller, 1 Hunters Ridge. We come out of Edgerton all the time. And during commuter traffic, it's terrible for us to get out. I can't imagine what it's gonna be like with trailer trucks coming east on Route 6 and trying to make a left-hand turn down to Rose's Bridge. In commuter traffic, it's just gonna jam up everything. It took me about 5 minutes to get out of that road the other day. So it's a terrible, terrible place for more traffic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last thing for the record, Jason St. Louis, 7 Rose Road. This area that we're talking about right now hasn't been zoned for commercial since it was 2019. Everybody keeps saying 40, 60 years. It was 2019. I've been living there. I never got a notice. So it was zoned commercial in 2019 and I never heard about it. So it wasn't 40 or 60 years ago.
No, move this back to the commission. Any thoughts from the commission? How we proceed here? I think at this point, what we have on the table between, if we can consider that there were 12 trees offered and another 20 on the table now as part of this application. We got 32 trees that have been offered, but what do we feel is a reasonable solution? In terms of a buffer? Is that a fair
I think.
perspective to throw out to the commission?
Sure.
I'll to weigh in on that.
Sure, let me just make a comment first, and whether you believe it or not, I have a lot of empathy for the neighbors, okay? But there's no sunlight between what they were talking about in their statements and Target's application. That's not where the rub hits. So it's about buffers along the entire road, it's about the visual. I mean, Jeff James' name was brought up a couple times. We know where the consternation lies, okay? As far as Target is concerned, my opinion, and I would love to hear, because I'm talking a lot, but I want everybody else who's sitting a member right now, who's a voting member right now, seated, to weigh in on this. We should close the public hearing. We need to move on with their application with a reasonable condition, with a buffer. And then move on to fight another day on the other application. That's my opinion. I would really like to hear what everybody else thinks.
It's pretty much, that's pretty much what I said a few minutes ago. We have 32 trees offered. Savannah and John can talk about placement to best utilize it. So there is a buffer to the laydown area. But I think that we're mentally combining the two applications, and we shouldn't.
I agree. We should not combine them. We have an application from Target Enterprises and we have to consider that and what they've offered. If we have a separate consideration on the other application, we should keep that discussion out of this. And that's a really good point to make, and I appreciate it.
I can't say what an adequate, if there's 32 trees, I don't know. I'm an engineer and now I farm. So that's my skill set. I'm not really sure how many trees would provide an adequate buffer. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know what an adequate buffer would be, so I don't know if this proposal is a good one or not for the residents or Target, or I just don't know. There's not enough information about what is an adequate screen and what we're trying to screen. Are we trying to screen the laydown area on 0? What are we trying to screen here, and who are we trying to screen it for? Where I'm at right now.
Well, I think we'd be screening their particular use, right? Because that's what.
Right, that's what the regulations say, right?
From whom, we don't have an adequate drawing that shows all the houses across the street.
Right.
So you can't say that this proposed buffer is gonna block the view of all the homes. That's part of the problem.
But
also, there's an elevation change, and I'm up at the top of Rosenbridge Road, I'm 50 feet higher than those trees. So I'll be able to see over the 6 trees and see the laydown area.
But the buffer is being proposed closer to the laydown area. It's an issue of perspective.
But if I'm at the first house on Rosenbridge Road, looking down, I'm 50 feet higher than the laydown area. I'm gonna be looking down over the proposed buffers onto the laydown.
Okay, so taking that into consideration, then what is an adequate buffer here?
An adequate buffer in my mind is going along Rosenbridge Road in the berm. We've talked about this in the past. You haven't been at the meetings.
I've reviewed all the meetings. I watched all the meetings. I've reviewed all of the meetings. So I understand that.
So you know what we've discussed.
Yes. And I understand that the original issue, putting a buffer all the way down Rose's Bridge, is not in response to Target, it's in response to Oswald. So what we've done is we found a way to make them responsible and tell the neighbors that we can fix all of their problems utilizing the applicant because they happen to have a use and he doesn't.
I don't think we've told the neighbors that we're gonna solve
Well, I think that we've implied that.
It's not our job. It's the applicant's job to propose something to us. We then say yes or no.
Right.
To the application.
And I asked you what your opinion would be an adequate buffer, and it was a buffer all the way down Rose's Bridge. which originally came from the complaints about.
Which would then block the view for all the residential houses along Wilson Bridge Road.
To Target or to Oswald's property?
Both.
Okay, well, both. We're not dealing with two combined
It
applications.
will block the view to the lake area.
Then we need to, again, we can live to fight another day with Oswald and that issue. That's a separate issue. We're talking about Target. We are mixing them up to the point where we're making things worse for everyone. So here's, listen, I know Marty hasn't.
Justin,
Yeah,
I just don't agree with you.
Then
I
that's
don't
fine.
think, I don't think we're making it worse for everybody. There's been an offer of 20 trees as a buffer. And I think the problem is much larger than that can solve. And the point that the laydown area would be visible from the upper house on Roses Bridge Road is a valid point. And the idea that there have been 20 trees offered to be planted as a solution, regardless of where they're put for the moment. I mean, where they're put is critical, but it's a token in response to what I see as a substantial problem. And I'll go one step beyond this, and I may be the only person who's expressed this view, but the idea that that driveway now has a new, much more intensive use for a much more active wholesale business, and I called it retail before, but let me settle on wholesale. Put that whole driveway and use of that driveway into play. Now, the idea that they had a site plan approval on an adjacent property, and that this application isn't for the use of the driveway for it. At this point, them using the driveway for that is a dramatically expanded use from what it has been in the past. And it was abandoned for some time, for quite some time, according to the testimony from the public. I think taking a reasonable approach to the use of the driveway is one thing, but I'd look for a reasonable buffer to the neighbors for the playdown area. And I think the best place to put that buffer, the most efficient, would be along Roses Bridge Road. Maybe not as large a buffer or as long a buffer as everybody that on Roses Bridge Road might like, but certainly more than 20 trees. And that's, I think, the most effective place to put them, because putting them down low next to the laydown area really doesn't provide a visual buffer to many of the people on Roses Bridge Road. So what's a reasonable approach to this? I think considerably expanded number of trees. Am I proposing 150 trees? No, but 20 trees doesn't come close to addressing what I think would be necessary. We don't really know, because the applicant hasn't done any presentation that would say we consulted a landscape architect, and then based on the height of this proposed buffer in this location, there would be no view to these affected properties. We don't have enough to make a decision right now. I'd love to come to a point where we can make a decision tonight, but I just don't see this, us as having enough information. And should we have to resolve this problem, or should we have a really well thought out proposal from the applicant that we can easily consider? And that's what I think the standard that's reasonable for us to expect from an applicant. And absent that, and if we have to go at it, then it's not gonna be done in as timely a manner. But there's a problem there. And we just need to do everything we can to use all the tools we have to solve it. I'm sorry, I had somebody, and
Yeah, so I'd say with all due respect, for us to come up with a feasible solution, it's hypothetical, because Mr. James plans on changing the elevation on the back of the Route 6 property. We're negotiable you tell me what you need for trees and stuff. I mean, we wanna resolve this. This is going on and on. We're a year into this. We got a $300,000 building we can't use. We're paying double rent. And we really love to resolve it.
if we could just address the zoning issues.
Okay,
The zoning issues are, we've had an application in for us for only so long. And we do have an issue with buffering the laydown area. It's the most efficient approach to put trees on the driveway coming in. Or is it to put them on Roses Bridge Road? I think, could we boil it down to that?
Yeah, I mean,
How
we're
many
looking at it,
trees are
I
not
mean, yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% correct, it's hypothetical, no matter how we look at it, it's. You know, we're not, if we were there sitting on the property right now, we could go and say, okay, you should have trees here, you should have trees here. It could be more than what they're proposing, but it could also be less because of the topography. And then you take into the $1 million question is what's gonna happen to the berm and to the edge of the road, you know, after the site work is done. I just think that, again, my opinion, I know you have your opinion, I respect your opinion, right? I'm not trying to fight you, but you know, you're one and I'm one and there's seven. So I think we're getting close to a point where we need to make a decision on what the majority wants. And I really think we should close the public hearing and approve their application with some sort of agreed upon adequate buffer, even if it's close to the greenhouse area.
A number, you're looking for a number.
I don't know if the number's appropriate.
Knows what the number is.
I don't know what the number is. Nobody
Nobody knows what the number is. A professional would come back with a proposal of so many trees because he's done the analysis of sight lines all the way up and down Rosenbridge Road.
The trees that go in, are they mature? Like how?
6 feet high, 8 feet
Right,
high,
but-
whatever, that's what the professional would say.
The front road is 25 feet
And how-
and
how-
double in size over time. And that's just my own personal experience with these size trees. So they'll probably go in, they'll be about 2 to 2.5 feet across. They'll quickly grow within 5 years to about 5 feet across and 20 to 25 feet over 10 to 12 years. Maybe not quite that high, but
John, could we propose an approval? So we would generally know the linear feet that they were looking at as far as putting the trees. Instead of saying a specific number of trees, could we just say it's approved with the condition that?
we're gonna get back to public commenting. We will get back, but we're not there right now.
Could we approve it under the condition that they create an adequate buffer along however many linear feet there are, instead of getting stuck and perseverating on the number of trees?
I would say yes, but I would suggest you add some specificity of who is authorized to make a call of adequacy.
So which would be the town planner and zoning enforcement officer, correct?
You know, that's would be a reasonable approach. If you just delineated a minimum number of feet for buffers and leave it to the discretion of the planner and the zoning officer to determine the location and adequacy of it. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable and defensible approach.
What's the amount of feet that we're talking about, or the distance that we're talking about?
Shown on what?
That on their proposal, so
They haven't shown anything on there.
we've looked at the map twice.
That was done by John.
Okay,
That
so
was-
John, according to your map,
They turned.
where you had put the drawings of the arborvitae's.
I mean,
how many feet is that?
the full distance of the driveway along or that covers the laydown area on the Oswa property is about 300 linear feet along the driveway.
Is the 300 feet what you guys had talked about?
Basically, yeah, like I said, I misunderstood it at first. Like I said, I counted the trees. I didn't realize, you know, he just superimposed them in there. Like I said, originally, that's what I said.
Right, because we know the distance, we know the area that needs to be
Right.
buffered, so what we're getting stuck on is the number of trees or whatever, I mean, it could be a fence, I mean, right, I mean, you need to comply with the buffer, so. And then I'll be quiet after this, but. You know, let the public needs to be able to speak, but I think that's where we're at, I mean, if we want to require a buffer, we have 300 linear feet that needs to be buffered. Right, so we can all move on.
And what was the distance, 4 or 5 feet in between? What did we decide?
60 trees.
And 75.
Right.
Well,
If they're 5 feet
75.
apart.
75 at 4 feet, 60 trees at 5 foot spacing.
Feet.
Okay, let me open this up to the public, because some people would like to say something. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Laura Jorgensen, 8 Pine Ridge. I believe in the last meeting you mentioned that the applicant should work with a landscape architect to get the exact kind of layout and spacing and whatnot in that area. I just wanted to put out there that you know, University of Connecticut had an extension office and a landscape architect program where if they didn't want to spend any money on getting that done, you could contact the Yukon Extension Office and have them perhaps go there and do that work, which I believe you asked for in the last meeting. Seems like there's some confusion surrounding what exactly needs to be done in that area, so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Jason St. Louis, 7 Roses Ridge Road, been an agronomy major at UMass and a landscape architecture minor. If you put arborvitae's in the soil that's presently there, they're not gonna do anything. It's all ground. It's been mined many times. They're mining it, or they were mining it up until the last meeting. So if you put it in sand, they're not gonna grow like you guys expect them to grow. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
As far as the endangered species, I didn't hear anybody comment. Andrea Lee, 2 River Valley Road. I didn't hear anybody comment on as far as the endangered species and the mitigation part, like protection for them. So where's the comments on that?
I don't, nobody offered a comment. We listened to what you had to say.
John has.
John?
If I might, Mr. Chair, specifically to Ms. Lee's comments regarding endangered species, I've put on the screen, hopefully you can see it. I don't know how big the type is. The statute that Ms. Lee cited, 26-311. First, am I correct, Ms. Lee, that this is the statute you cited?
Yes, that's one of them.
Okay. I would ask you to point out in this statute where it requires an applicant to submit the analysis.
Just checking around. Do you have that paper? Yeah. There you go. That was 26, no, it's 311, 26-311.
That's what I have on the screen.
Page 12. Oh, no, letter section 26-3.
So it says, it's unlawful to willfully take. I pulled this up myself. It's unlawful for any person to willfully take any endangered or threatened species on or from public property, waters or of the state or property or of another without the written permission of the owner on whose the property species occur, any person, including the land. So what exactly are you trying to point out on there?
Which did you just read? Subsection A?
So 26-311, it started with the 26-310, where it's unlawful for any person to willfully take any endangered or threatened species on or from public property.
Okay, this is not public property. Go on.
So the statute contains a provision that allows incidental taking from lawful land use, but only under limited conditions and not without review.
Okay. That's where is the review called for? The local regulations don't call for that review.
So then there's on the general statute 26-310. Requires state agencies when performing or authorizing land action must mitigate adverse impacts to endangered species and essential habitats. When
this application is not.
When he published that 11-page document saying, it says right on page 2 of it, it says the proposed mitigation protection plan focuses on 2 species of state listed turtles, the eastern box turtle and the wood turtle, the eastern hognose snake and the smooth green snake. The reptiles are all listed as special concern status under Connecticut's Endangered Species Act, and they have been documented as occurring within the project area and throughout the Hop River system encompassing the towns of Andover, Bolton, Columbia, and Coventry, with Clemens et al. 2021.
Sure, and so that was in regards to the replacement of the Bunker Hill Bridge,
yes,
which was a state project, which is why it was subject to the state SEPA law. What about this project would trigger that same law?
Because it doesn't really matter where you are, it's still, they're a protected species.
It doesn't matter
regardless
where you are.
if it's private property or not.
Nothing in sections 306 or 303 to 312 inclusive shall prohibit a person performing legal activities on his own land that may result in the incidental taking of land or of endangered or threatened plant species. This is not about public land. This is about private land.
Yes, but there's limited conditions and it's within review, even when it's someone's personal land. Cause there's still an endangered species, they're a threatened species that's still protected under the endangered species law. So there would be a mitigation plan that would need to take place prior to removing their home. Which if I showed everyone the map and I had sent the map to you and Savannah, that you guys said that you couldn't print it out for the board members, so I printed it out myself. And that map shows exactly that they're in, and that's public for anyone to open up and view, that they're in the endangered species area.
Okay, I'd like to move this along.
So, Mr. Chair,
We've heard, John, we've heard what you said.
No, Mr. Chair, if I might, I'm sorry, but I would also ask the chairman for a little bit of leeway as Ms. Lee has attacked me personally in her testimony.
All right.
This is the natural diversity database picture that Ms. Lee submitted and that we said we'd be happy to share on the screen, which I'm happy to share on the screen right now. This is, I don't know, this is zoomed way in. I believe the property in question right here is Roses Bridge Road.
Yep.
If you can sort of see that with the Hop River running right here, the subject properties are between Roses Bridge Road and Route 6 right in here. I would note that Miss Lee's property and everyone also in the room today are within the same habitat, and I would assume Miss Lee, whenever she did yard work or anything like that, received the same sort of permission from the Department of Environmental Protection to do any activity in her own yard. Is that correct?
Yes. We need permits for everything.
You do? Could you submit those for the record, please?
A pool permit, a driveway permit, I can submit all of them.
NDDP review permit of the. Under the presumption you would have had to apply for NDDP review if you were to do any work on your property, including a shed, a house,
Of course.
anything you put in, which is not required.
So I'm sorry, you testifying on the record that you have DEP permits for all of the activities taking place at your house?
I didn't hear what you said initially. Somebody else had responded, that was not me.
Okay,
So go ahead and
so
start.
are you stating for the record that you, in all of the activities that involve any kind of construction or clearing or maintenance of your land, have gotten permission from the DEP to address?
That's not within the scope of this application.
She is claiming
forward on this. If you would like to make any comments about what was said about you, great, but let's not address things that are outside the scope of this application.
Well, she just asked if anyone was going to respond to the environmental protection thing. I believe she is misreading the statute.
Okay, we've heard what you have to say about that, and let's have that on the record where we are.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna go back to the.
So I'm kind of in agreement with everybody here on our commission, but I think to quantify it, I think what we need to do, and I realize that normally this isn't the position that we're in, where we make the proposal, we're usually just approving the proposal. But I think in this case, to expedite things a little bit, maybe we should just make the proposal and say, this is what we want. And then try to solve everyone's problem, which is difficult. And it's gonna be a little bit more erroneous on the applicant than they would like, because we're gonna propose more trees than they would like. But I think that we need to put this to bed, and
I would agree with you 100%. And I think coming up with an area where we expect those trees with adequate bedding in that area to support the trees having adequate chance, subject to review by our town planner, the planting specifics. So it may involve some excavation and providing proper bedding for the proposed trees. And I think if we could come up with a place for the buffer and a length for the buffer, and give our town planner, subject to his discretion, for 6-foot arborvitaes, the spacing of the trees. You know, we've heard from 5 to 8 feet or 4 feet. I don't know where the specifications for the spacing came from. It's one thing to come from a manufacturer, it's another thing to come from a licensed landscape architect. But come up with a specific area that we would like to see the buffer in the distance from, use a reference point from the driveway going toward Route 6 would be, and a reasonable offset subject to the discretion of our town planner. I think is a good way to verbalize a solution. It's not my preferred way. I'd much rather see a concrete plan presented to us that we could critique but at this point, I really like this solution proposed while we're in public hearing, not once we have closed the public hearing. We're really very limited as to what we can consider outside of the public hearing. So coming up with what we think is an appropriate solution to do the best job we can to have a fair and reasonable resolution of this. I would guess that we're thinking along the same line.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna recant my original comment about separating these two because I don't see how you can. And I think we gotta do something that's, since we're gonna be having a discussion about the second application tonight. I think we need to we're gonna end up solving both applications with the same information.
But let's just propose a solution in the context of the current application,
Okay.
not even reference the other application. That's just a dangerous place to go. Let's just address the laydown area as the application was presented. If they want to go for a different solution, they may have to withdraw and refile and form a lot line revision. And then we could consider that, but I still think use of that driveway for a commercial use always is going to trigger our right to look at the ability to demand some sort of buffer between that laydown area, that use on that property and the adjacent property, because it is accessed over a lot that's in a residential zone. Adjacent to contiguous to a residential zone. He's just speaking, I apologize.
So do you want me to make a proposal?
Yeah, why don't you throw something out for us?
Let me one more suggestion.
Yes,
I would suggest one suggestion.
yes, sir.
Jason, Federal Bridge Road, the pioneer species that are coming up with that disturbed soil. Like 99% poplars. If they thin them out, those would be something that they could use in between. Less arborvitaes, like the poplars are going crazy in that lot right now, so. As a landscape architect, I'm saying, there's it's all poplars. They grow quick, they grow fast,
What happens in the winter?
they lose their leaves.
And it's not a buffer.
Well, you can put them in between, what I'm saying is you can put them in between,
In between what?
the poplars.
Buffers in between the.
Well,
other.
listen, I'm the one that has the most view of this place, I'm trying to give this guy an option. There's a ton of poplars, you can make a buffer out of those too.
Yes, sir.
Dave Merkier, 6 Pine Ridge Road. I mean, I lost count how many meetings we've been here for, but we keep coming around to the same thing. Buffer is needed. Why can't the board be able to make a conscious decision? But I think you guys need, and the applicant needs to pay for a landscape architect who determines sound design, aesthetic design, and spacing. And recommends, looking at the property and soil conditions, what is recommended to put there so everybody can make a conscious decision instead of leaving it up to the town planner and the zoning enforcement officer to decide what's appropriate when they're not professional landscape people. That's my only comment.
We have a problem, and that is that we have to close this public hearing tonight. And once we close the public hearing, we can't take new evidence into testimony.
I'm not talking about new evidence. I'm saying we keep coming back to who's going to determine what is discretionary or what's appropriate. Anybody on this board, no one is a licensed landscape architect that went to school for this. That's all I'm saying is that for everybody here to make a conscious decision. I can't even tell you what the spacing is without going to Home Depot or Lowe's and reading the back of a tag and say, hey, this is recommended.
I understand what you're saying.
That's
I'd like
my
to
only
try to
comment.
answer your concerns, but I'm not challenging your concerns. And I can't speak for the whole commission, but absent a reasonable proposal or an acceptable proposal, let me take the word reasonable out of the discussion, because that's not a fair thing to throw into the discussion. But absent a likely acceptable proposal being put forth by the applicant, when we have a deadline like this, our only option is to come up with a rather specific condition of approval, or approve it with no conditions, or deny it. We have limited legal authority. We have only so many things we can do. We are constrained by statute and by fairness. Yes, ma'am.
Mona Marker, 6 Conway Road. Been to all the meetings and you have asked for that before, so why is it not done, presented so that this could have avoided all of this and we could have a professional opinion voted on, like you've asked at almost every meeting for this to be presented, and it has not. So now we're kind of the ones that are gonna suffer for it.
My final comment, Dave Mercury, 6 Pine Ridge Road, the very last meeting. You're the owner of.
Please address your comments.
Okay, the owner of the lot and the property pitched the proposal to the applicant Target. Let's just take everything else off the table, keep the lay down area. And I left the meeting the last time, it's like, if I was Target, why would I want to do that? I'm still gonna be paying for 2 buildings. That's not resolution. Resolution would be, you had 2 weeks to come back to this meeting with a proper proposal. And what's that mean in my eyes? I have no idea, because I'm not a landscape architect. I didn't go to school. So
You made that.
I'm just saying,
You made it really well. I
nothing was
appreciate it.
put forward.
Yes. Okay. This is, if we're gonna cover new ground, great. If we've already covered this ground, I would appreciate it not being brought up again.
Okay.
Yes.
Andrea Lee, 2 River Valley Road. So as far as Target goes, the land that they're renting from is owned by Oswa. So therefore Oswa should be all on their landlord, which I understand they're going through their financial stuff of paying for 2 buildings. Ultimately, that should fall on Jeffrey James, the owner of the land, who falsely pretty much told them, hey, you can use this, you can use it for your business. And now they're running into these issues. If it's the property where we want them to plant the trees along, it's owned by Oswa. So therefore Oswa would need to plant it along the area that they couldn't cover.
The applicant on this application is Target Enterprises.
Correct.
As authorized by Oswald. And so that's who we're addressing.
So Target Enterprises is allowed to plant on Oswa's property wherever they want to.
They are the applicant with the permission of the owner of the property. That's the legality of it.
Yeah.
Period. That's the whole deal.
Well, yes, I understand that, but if the property is owned by Oswa.
The applicant is the applicant and has use of the property, and we're addressing the applicant.
And they can plant the trees wherever is required.
We don't know the scope of their agreement to use the property and whether that agreement encompasses other areas of 0.6. So that's the only answer I can give you. So are we comfortable as a commission proposing a solution? We have asked for some sort of resolution of this by the applicant, and to this point, it's my perspective that we haven't really received anything from the applicant that we would likely find acceptable.
Does everybody else think that way?
Again, the rating said you agreed to 20 trees, is that what you, or 12?
They agreed to 20.
Oh.
Well, we're up to 32, I think.
No, I don't read it. The applicant put an additional 12 trees on the table.
I previously met with folks from the town.
You've been told this, we'll get to you.
Right, the 12 trees were from the other application.
The other
which we're not
application.
which we're not talking about, right?
Which we're not talking right now, so. Yeah, if all of a sudden there are 32 or 40 trees proposed as part of this application, let's just consider that. But as of right now, let's not have any discussion about 0.6 as it relates to a different application that's considered under a different set of circumstances.
I think if we could take a break for 5 minutes, keep the public hearing open. If the applicant and the owner will decide what they want to propose to us, let them propose it to us. It's not our job to propose projects for review. It's their job to present something for us to review. So they've heard all kinds of talk, where we're coming from. I think give them a chance to modify their application. Because right now, the application has nothing. It was a verbal statement, two verbal statements that contradict each other. I would like to have the applicant specifically state what they want to do. Then we can decide whether we want to vote on it, yea, nay, or modify it. Instead of us, I was at for that.
Any proposal you make for a buffer, if it's in fact offered, while the public hearing is open, it's a procedural thing. Very important to us, because then we can react to it. If you close the public hearing and subject to a reasonable buffer being defined, and then it's not acceptable, we don't have any real option to do anything other than take action on the application based on what information we have in hand, whether it's yay or nay, I won't even hint that. So, what do you think? Let's give them about 5 minutes. And, okay, so we're gonna formally take a break from the public hearing.
I'm not there, guy.
Oh, you're not?
You're not?
He didn't even come.
I haven't said anything. We wanted to. Yeah. Right.
Recess, so judges.
Yes. Right.
They should have been a lawyer, they should have followed.
How do we get found the talk?
Well, we want to hear.
Very quiet.
What's that? This is my seatmate.
Well, we don't know. I don't know either. It's.
Just happened.
A lot of things. They know what they have to do back.
What happens?
They need to us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it would still be the key.
I asked everybody to stop talking.
Yeah.
Could I please ask everyone to stop talking? So I think it's in your hands.
No, it's in,
So the offer would be to give 40 trees, to be put whichever you feel the best, buffer would be. So whether it's along the driveway or, the lay area or on, Rose's Bridge Road, from the highest elevation house, the house with the highest elevation down.
That's just for that.
And who decides that area?
Excuse me.
Who decides where they go?
Well, I guess we're giving you that, whatever we provide the homeowners with the most, I mean, I think it was discussed that the lay area might not be the best because up here you'd be able to see over. So,
We don't, wherever they want, we don't care. I mean, that's what I'm worried about.
best.
Okay. Does the commission feel we have enough to close the public hearing at this point?
Yes.
Dave,
Okay, I guess so.
Marnie?
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. Jason, okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing for the special permit application. John Sowski and Joseph Pratt of Target Enterprises for a laydown area 0 Route 6 and 223 Route 6, map 6, lots 25 and 27, CM1 zone, lot area 10 acres and 14 acres respectively.
I'll take a second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, okay. Thank you for everyone's input, I really appreciate it. I think we've heard all of your voices. No, I know we've heard all of your voices. And we've been at all the meetings also. That being said, we have on our schedule a special permit application of OSWA LLC moving into unfinished business, item 6. We have a special, item 6.1 is a special permit application of OSWA LLC for excavation and grading per section 63 of the Columbia zoning regulations at 0 Route 6, map 6, lot 25, CM1 zone, lot area is 10 acres. We would need to take action at this meeting or the next meeting on this application. We have until November 13th by statute. Our next meeting is November 10th, 2025. Any thoughts from the commission and from Savannah and John?
I would, if I might, I don't want to step on any commissioners. Again, I would reiterate my thoughts that again, I'm sympathetic to the change that the neighbors have experienced visually on their road. I don't believe extensive planting on the Oswa property is the best way for a long-term solution, simply because the grading that is happening right now is not an end use. It is not where the applicant, where the property owner intends the property to be, which is going to be ideally a commercially used property. And the end use will require a special permit or special exception, and will require this commission to have a public hearing and take action on where buffering and plantings is a more relevant topic, given the fact that we will know what the end use is. Overplanting this site, even though it's well intentioned to buffer the neighbors, this is a temporary condition, and plantings will inevitably suffer from the ongoing grading and preparation of the property for a future end use. Which again, this is not an end use. This is a transitional regrading. I think the combined properties, because obviously this driveway leads to Target and both the Target project, because it is on land abutting a residentially zoned property, and the Oswa being adjacent to, deserve some consideration for neighborhood impacts. I tend to think that the proposal, I'm sorry, it was 20 or 40, what that was just cited?
40 proposed, but I believe 40 was in the context of the Target Enterprise application. We also had on the table, and I don't know if it's appropriate to clarify this, because I don't want to take advantage of any misunderstanding. Is that 40 total? And are you taking off the table the 12 that you had offered previously for 0.6?
I'm not considering that at the moment. We're talking about Target, and I'm not considering.
Okay, so we're talking about your application, right?
We're not talking. Oh, we're not talking about Target any longer. Then if we're talking about if you're talking about the 12 trees, the Oswald on the Oswald application that I proposed previously,
Yeah.
I would still do the 12 trees.
Okay, so now we have 52 trees on the table. And 52 trees, if they're 5-foot spacing, that's a 250-foot long theoretical buffer. Let's just go back to Jesse Oswa, 12 trees. If we could give you the discretion for the placement of those trees, and if we have to, as a town, go consult with a landscape architect, ultimately, I think it's a reasonable expense for the town to incur, to, even though it's probably not recoverable, just to come up with the best possible solution for the neighborhood.
John, getting back to your comment about work along Roses Ridge Road. The plan that we have from Oswald shows about 500 feet of existing berm to remain from the gate south for 500 feet. So the only disturbance along Roses Ridge Road is actually up near Route 6 for about 200 feet. That's the only disturbance.
You think?
Yes.
As far as the as far as the current contours versus the
Yes,
contours later,
Yes.
it's what Bob just said.
so 500 feet of existing berms to remain,
Mhm.
which is the majority of which is in the 30-foot front yard setback. So nothing would be built there anyways.
Okay. So I mean, the berm as it exists, I mean, provides a fairly substantial visual buffer from Rose's Bridge.
To some
looking
extent,
eastward.
yes, it does. Yep.
And so to the chairman's question, yeah, I would intend to, if this were assigned to Savannah and myself, to recommend the planting locations, I would definitely consult with a landscape architect. I suspect we can do this at no charge. We have a number of colleagues that could provide some guidance, unless the town wished to retain somebody. But I think we could get qualified guidance for free.
I'm content, comfortable, enthusiastically willing to rely on your expertise. And, between you and Savannah, coming up with an appropriate plan. So if we could, have an approval of this application subject to the placement of the 12 trees that have been offered at the discretion. I don't think any of the residents on Rose's Bridge Road have any desire to have trees planted on their land. So that being said, those 12 trees going into the mix, we end up with approximately 250, 260 linear feet of buffer that will be able to be affected. And I think that's a solution that.
Well, even if you took 500 feet and said you had 52 trees, that's just under 10 feet on center. As they grow, they may fill in. I mean, I would like them a little closer, but.
If we could rely on a professional to recommend how to approach those, and it would be subject to adequate bedding of those trees, even if more soil needs to be brought in, and some sort of performance assurance that if any trees do not survive within the first X number of years, based on the recommendation of the landscape architect or whatever we can put out there now, that they will get replaced.
And this is in the context of John's draft motion, is that kind of how we're approaching this?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
And I think this kind of, it came from a lot of the comments that Dave threw out, and I appreciate that. I'm looking to draft motions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's in the plan.
It's from the.
I'm looking for the draft motion because I'd rather reference it specific or go on. I'm going, thank you.
I don't know.
Before I get to that, this has been brought up previously, but our regulations talk about performance bond for work in projects, specifically for grading and excavation projects.
I think we can.
Under section 63.5.10, the applicant shall file with the commission a cash saving account for surety bond in the amount and in form acceptable to the commission. So I don't think we have any discretion on this. It says shall provide, which means will provide. So we need to have some kind of a performance bond for this project. The applicant, I believe, said there was 42,000 cubic yards of fill being brought in. Is that right?
Yeah.
The value of that has got to be in the neighborhood of $15, $15 to $20 a yard in place.
What does that have to do with?
Well, the performance bond is insurance that if you default on doing the work, the town then catches the performance bond in and completes the work. So it's important to know what the value of the work is, because that's what the performance bond is based on. Okay, so you had 42,000 cubic yards of fill you're bringing in, correct?
Yeah.
That was stated previously. If that fill is, say, $15 to $20 a cubic yard in place, compacted in place, that's gonna be at $800,000. The performance bond would be based on that value. And you'd have.
What if the material's free? Because that's my business.
If you can prove that the material is free, then we could reduce that. You still have to put it in place, you still have to come back.
Okay.
So,
I can prove that.
yeah, so I would leave it up to our staff to establish what that performance bond is, but there should be a performance.
We
bond
modified our
in place.
performance bond regulations, giving our zoning enforcement agent the authority to reduce a bond where she doesn't feel the entire amount is necessary. So we've given fairly wide discretion there, and she'll work with you on that. I don't know that we need to reference it because it's already part of our regulation that has to be
I
set.
just wanted to point out to everybody that is a requirement in our regulations. We don't have latitude to not do it. No.
The thing about prior to the issuance of the special permit. Could be stated, so that
It's not in special, it's not in the special permit section, it's in excavation and.
I know,
Great.
I'm just saying in conditions stating prior to the issuance of the special permit, the performance bond will be received.
Exactly.
Very big presence and.
That's the second. Oh, actually, two sections. That's the one under excavation.
Okay, I got it. It's 50.6 also.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to. Let's go through the proposed draft, through the draft motion. Let's go on, discuss under item 12. Under item 2, the applicant will purchase and install a minimum of 12 green giant arborvitae hedge plants, each with an initial height of 6 feet to be placed on the following properties. Why don't we, instead of to be placed subject to the discretion of our planning, town planner, and leave the specific property off?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that said, Mr. Chair, I don't know that did you get formal refusals from the the neighbors? I think it still might be appropriate to offer it to them.
And I will let you, because it's your discretion, then you can offer it to them. And I'm comfortable delivering that authority to you verbally. I mean, clearly there was something proposed here, but I don't think any of them really wanted the arborvitae's on their property based on the testimony that we heard. So
that's fine. I just
really
want to, I just didn't want to totally forego the potential if one of them has a change of heart or if one decides to do it, the others don't. I just didn't want to foreclose the option.
Why don't you put something in writing together, John, and submit it to each of the residents?
Well, that would be the intent. That would be the intent. I just like I wasn't clear if you were just foregoing
we're on the record
the
here.
right of first refusal at all altogether.
Personally, I'm very comfortable leaving it to your discretion.
Okay. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah, we'll leave it flexible enough in that. Yeah, no, I understand, John, where you're coming from. I agree.
You can't read my scratch tomorrow. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read the draft motion aloud. I'll make a motion to approve the special permit application of Oswa LLC for excavation and grading for sections 63 of the Columbia zoning regulations at 0 Route 6, map 6, lot 25, zone CM1, based on the submitted application and a plan entitled Conceptual Grading Plan prepared for Oswa LLC, prepared by Rob Hellstrom Land Surveying LLC, dated June 3rd, 2025, with the following conditions. Number one, truck traffic is accessing the property via Roses Bridge Road will be limited to hours of 7 a.m. through 5 p.m. Mondays through Saturdays.
No.
I thought, can I jump in here for a second? I thought we lined that out maybe Fridays instead of.
I
believe I was pretty sure
That
that
changed that.
I have lined that out on my other documents.
Just in discussing that, it was mentioned that there are some times need for emergency access on weekends when there are natural disasters and things. And would you be more comfortable and I'm comfortable addressing that at this point? Subject to
Emergency needs.
Yeah, subject to emergency. How do we phrase this?
I don't think you need it for school.
You know. Okay, let's not address it, you know.
Because that's true.
If Hot River floods, it's gonna be, I mean, that's a bigger deal.
Well, yeah, but they get called on the weekend from a road department because there was an emergency and they need some material to repair it last minute. I don't want to put them in a position where
They're not providing, they're not.
Right.
That was.
That was covered,
us.
not Oswald.
That's a different application. This is temporary construction, this is
Right.
construction traffic.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm confusing the application, I apologize, my error. Okay, all right.
7 to 5 Monday through.
But on this application, a truck accessing it at midnight on Saturday because there was an emergency would theoretically violate it. So, let's leave this as Fridays and not go beyond that. So item 1, truck traffic accessing the property via Roses Bridge Road will be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. through 5 p.m. Mondays through Friday. The applicant, number 2, the applicant will purchase and install a minimum of 12 green giant arborvitae hedge plants, each with an initial height of 6 feet, to be placed subject to the discretion of the town planner. If the owners of any of, and then I've eliminated items A, B, and C, and these plantings are to be accompanied by a landscape bond to be held by the town in an amount in form determined by the town planner to ensure the success of the plantings for a minimum of 16 months. Number 3, permanent landscape screening and buffering design to screen neighboring residential properties from commercial activity of the Oswa property will be designed and approved in conjunction with all future applications for commercial development at the site. Number 4, the applicant will submit quarterly reports via email to the town planner and zoning enforcement officer beginning January 1, 2026 and continuing until the site grading is complete and stabilized, providing a narrative of project progress and estimated timeframes to completion. Number 5, an erosion and sedimentation control bond in the amount and form determined by the town planner shall be posted with the town of Columbia and held until the site grading is complete and the site is stabilized. Prior to the issuance of the special permit, a performance bond per section 63.5.10 and 52, section 52.6 will be posted. That makes sense to everybody? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, that is the. This one.
I'm voted out.
Yeah. Thank you. Next up, We have the special permit application for John, am I pronouncing it correctly?
You are.
Wasowski
Yeah.
and Joseph Pratt of Target Enterprises Incorporated for a laydown area at 0 Route 6, 220 and 223 Route 6, map 6, lot 25 and 27, zone CM1, lot areas, excuse me, 10 acres and 14 acres. That was item 6.2 on the agenda. Okay, where are we? We have the draft motion. On the frame, it's in my top.
I don't think we have a draft.
We don't draft them, but I don't think there was one.
I made some notes on some draft motion, but I don't think we have one.
Then let's talk about, John. Are we ready to vote on this tonight, subject to the offering of the applicant for the 40 Bs in an area to be designated by, and that some of the conditions that were for the, maintenance of the plantings for 16 months, I think is a reasonable condition. That was, the verbiage in the prior motion.
So these plantings are to be accompanied by a landscape bond to be held by the town in an amount and form determined by the town planner to ensure the success of the plantings for a minimum of 16 months. That sentence?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so with something like approval with the conditions of 40 planted trees with the locations at the discretion of the town planner, plus the verbiage I just read about. I mean, would that be
So the verbiage in this other approval that we just granted, item 2, for example. The applicant will purchase and install a minimum of 40 green giant arborvitae hedge plants with an individual height of 6 feet to be placed subject to the discretion of the town planner. These plantings are to be accompanied by a landscape bond to be held by the town in an amount and form determined by the town planner to ensure the success of the plantings for a minimum of 16 months.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You're gonna reference the drawing.
We don't need to, I don't think, because the town planner is gonna determine.
No, I mean, the drawing was submitted as part of the application. You did that in the last meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's not the entire motion. I just was talking about the subsection. So in crafting a motion here, I'm doing this on the fly, right?
Yes. That's the information on this. Enterprises.
Make notes here. And that's just for this one. And the dates on the application are July 25th, 2025.
This is this.
Go back to. Not fixing that. Giving notice.
I think it's as you said, especially 2 months and stuff.
I think you got a reference.
Yeah.
That should be.
That was the original state plan, but the most recent version was the budget that I was.
August 7th, is revised.
Yes.
There's no rush.
Yeah. Here with this, that we're pointed for the language for the.
The site plan is. This is just like a crazy.
Most recent.
Just come up with us. So what you want.
This is the state plan that says July 25th.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take a stab at this motion. Could I have everyone take 5, please? Motion to approve the special permit application of Target Enterprises. Incorporated for a laydown.
No, not Target or Commonwealth.
No, we're.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll go back.
For a laydown area, 0 Route 6 and 223 Route 6, map 6, lot 25 and 27, the CM1 zone, lot areas 10 acres and 14 acres respectively. And the plan entitled Site Development Plan for Target Enterprise Incorporated, prepared by Rob Hells from Land Surveying, dated August 7th. The most recent version was July, it was August 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, most August 7th.
This was received in the town hall.
Okay, so
It was
it's dated July 25th, 2025.
It was most recently updated July 31st. I have it on the screen.
Updated July 31, 2025. The applicant shall purchase and install a minimum of 40 green giant arborvitae hedge plants with an initial height of 6 feet to be placed subject to the discretion of the town planner. These plantings are to be accompanied by a landscape plan held by the town in an amount and form determined by the town planner to ensure the success of plantings for a minimum of 16 months. Anything else we need? We've got the conditions for this. Okay, yes, that's on that. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Should buy them.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the POCD. Nothing on POCD tonight, correct?
That is correct. We're going to be discussing housing at the next meeting.
No new business, no regulation revisions. We do have Subcommittee meeting on the 21st.
October 21st at 1 p.m.
Yeah, 1 p.m. So we encourage any member of the public that wants to participate to come. Other communication reports, anything to make note of that isn't already in the packet.
Hold on, sorry, can I ask a quick question? Are we, like, I know the subcommittee is you, Walt, and Justin. Am I allowed to be at that?
Yes, everyone's welcome.
Okay, thank you.
As many members, if you have something to say, and if you want to formally be a member of the subcommittee, let us know. 1 p.m. on the 21st, right there. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I just want to.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you for asking.
yeah, thank you.
Anything under communication reports of note, John?
I have nothing further. The last I'd heard, there's actually going to be a special session of the legislature to discuss the housing bill, probably the second week of November. That's my latest information.
Okay, thank you. Anything else anyone would like to say or would like to go home? Okay. Anything else from the public that you would like to
Just
bring
real
up that
quick,
wasn't
just
already on the agenda?
On the Oswald, so that one sheet, I don't know if I would be able to get a copy of that sheet that has the. Pretty much the points of the 12 trees, like what they need to have, the requirements, because that is.
Well,
They count as the approval for that?
we have the approval, motion in our minutes, and that's probably the best way to get a concise approval motion.
Okay, but ultimate question, so decision made would be considered today, October 14th.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you have some thoughts on where they should be placed, feel free to let John know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've made it clear where we want them placed, it's just a matter of, what our next step.
This was done on the fly, so the more, more information we can garner from the public, we appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just, I wanted to see that the decision was made now.
Did we end up having that, letter from you back with us here?
Yes, I can get that back to you.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of things that I would like to make sure in the record.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they were really addressed, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we're not addressing any of those now, just procedurally. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
Well, the Mercury 36 Pine Grove, I don't know if they're still doing that. Will it be public record who he's using for the architect, the landscape architect? Will we be able to get a copy of what their proposal is, where it should go? And how many, that type of.
Reach out to John and start a dialogue. It's an open process. Yeah. I would reach out, send him an email or get a note to him, just say we'd like to know, and I'm sure he will accommodate the best he can. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Well, now we'll take it to.
No executive session, I'll make a motion, we adjourn. Second. All in favor? That's unanimous, thank you.